Good morning, afternoon. Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I am your co-host, Bonnie Snyder, and I'm here in the studio. And we're doing a little bit of a role reversal here, but I'm, as you can see, here in the studio. And where's she at? Tammy's here, but she is actually zooming from home. So there is.
Hey, yeah, I am still at home, kind of quarantined. I did test positive for COVID, so I have been sick all week, and I was still testing positive, so I can't make it to the studio, and I don't want everybody to get this, so we decided to do a split screen. But ironically, I'm only like 2 miles away from you.
Yeah, so, there she is, Tammy White, the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation and my co-host. So, welcome everyone to the show. As we always, like I said, we're, doing things a little different, last week and this week, because we can. It's the beauty that we love about what, we do in that, our show is very unscripted. You never know what's going to happen on the set. So, let's begin with, what we typically say, in thanking, Rob and John and, everybody here at Area 52. Media group for allowing us to be able to bring this information to you, and giving us this platform, to give, a safe place to talk about topics that some people may not want to talk about either because, as you hear us say often on the set, it is a difficult topic to talk about, but having a place to, highlight and talk about it in ways that, for lack of a better word, are normalizing, or that makes it comfortable. So again, we can't thank, our team here at the studio for that. I personally think that we don't give enough shout out to Tammy, and her vision and bravery for starting, founding the I'm doing it. I'm doing this today. But no, seriously, I think it's important that, we do take a step back and, take a moment and focus on, why Tammy founded the foundation in the first place. As, we've talked about her story, multiple times in that, what her experience was after, the death of Bobby. And it's like, hold it, time out. I don't want anybody else to have to experience what I experienced. And so let me take my negative experience and turn it into something positive. And so, again, I think it's only fitting and important that we, take a moment and give a shout out, to Tammy for being the founder of this foundation. So yeah, love you, Tammy.
You can only get away with that good because I'm out here.
No, I would do that if you were here.
It's not, I appreciate it really because, oftentimes when we do what we do, we feel like, sometimes we just feel like we're beating our heads against the wall and nobody's listening. And, what are we doing this for? And it's hard on us, to at times to do what we do, but, we don't do it alone. I mean, that's one darn thing for sure. I mean, I don't do this alone, obviously. You and our team at the studio and with the foundation, the volunteers that we have and the volunteers that we have, getting ready for this fundraiser coming up next week, which is getting really kind of scary close, but we don't do it alone. And it, more often than not, it's, it's other people that have experienced it or our experience of going through what we've gone through or are going through, that are our biggest supporters also. It's, it's kind of like, this, what do you do with all that grief? What, it can't just sit there, for a lot of us. And that, you experienced it when, last week when I missed, I wanted to talk about something, and this kind of ties into it because, we've been doing this together for over a year and a half. This is our 76th episode. And we don't see each other all the time during the week in the community. We do, every once in a while, things overlap and, we do things together and stuff. And we do the show, but we have, a couple things that in our lives that overlap. And I kind of knew this, but then it wasn't until really like, I think this year that it really kind of hit me. And I guess it was because I was forced to lay low. And so sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes not with my brain. But I wanted to, because this kind of goes to show how we can be going through the, very similar situations, but our journeys are so much different for different reasons. And, before I was sick, I had mentioned that August 23rd was my birthday, but it also happened to be my 30th wedding anniversary. And my birthdays have really sucked since Bobby died. At first it was a really good idea, we thought, to get married on my birthday so he wouldn't forget. But, then it's not. But I did have a really good birthday this year. I kind of talked myself into it, and it was a really good day. But that day also has a total different significance for you.
And what's funny about that is, and to add to the point that you're making, I was in a conversation with actually it was someone last night. We were on the Journey to Healing Hearts support group, or
Right.
Group thing that we do, that ASAP does, and the person that I was on the meeting with, we talked about how certain months in the year suck for us, and how we don't always draw the distinction between things that happen. And so when for you, when you mentioned August 23rd, well, for me, yes, that I have a love-hate relationship with that particular day. The love side of it is I recognize and acknowledge that's your birthday. So I'm like, here is a day to celebrate, and I would look at you and say, you're my friend first, we're co-hosts second, okay? Or we are two friends who just happen to co-host this show. And so on this side of it, I, can appreciate, celebrate, and find joy in the fact that it's your birthday. And sometimes there's an allowance for that to overshadow the fact that that is also the date of Patrick's service. And what happens is, conversely, if my brain goes first to that's the day of Patrick's service, there's that potential to put a damper on, and it's Tammy's birthday. At the same side, if my brain first goes to it's Tammy's birthday, it might soften the negative feelings, the grief, the sadness, that realization that I feel that this is also the day that I had Patrick's service. And mind you, not knowing that well, I mean, come to think of it, I wouldn't have known, because our relationship, especially with the show, started after Pat. And I don't think up until we started doing the show that, it wasn't until recently that I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, it was the same way with me too. Yeah,
Yeah, your
yeah.
birthday and Patrick's service day is the same day. Or when I did, and I see we have, we're going to talk about him in a little bit. When I did that series for the Lifeline, not processing right away that the last day of that presentation series coincided with, oh, this is the day that I actually lost Pat. We were talking. Yeah, I was at the drug summit last week, or earlier this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we were talking about how we acknowledge and celebrate some things, and I'm looking at Valentine's Day, for example. All right, so most people, when they do Valentine's Day, it's here's some flowers, um, here are some flowers, because I just say I love you. But for people who have lost individuals, it is like, do we acknowledge that some people are being given putting flowers on, the graves of people that they lost. Or here's some chocolates. These chocolates are, here's comfort food for you, but not realizing that some people, that chocolate is, oh my God, like, I'm depressed, give me chocolate. I'm angry, give me chocolate. So where it's like, here's this heart-shaped box of chocolate because I love you. Now that box of chocolate you're giving me is for comfort. And, again, drawing these parallels between the positive and the negative, I think are sometimes they're very subtle until they smack you in the face. And for me, now I always look at August 23rd as a joyful day and a day that sucked.
Oh, thanks. I tell you, I spent the night before, actually the day and the night before, talking myself into like, okay, it's your birthday, and Grant, it's your 30th anniversary, and yeah, Bobby's not here physically, but it's still your 30th anniversary, and you are going to have a good day. And I just had to keep going over in my head. It is going to be a good day. It's going to be a happy day. And even when I woke up that morning, I started out the same thing. I mean, I had to talk myself into it. I mean, it just wasn't like, oh, poof, I'm having a happy birthday finally. But it worked out really, really good. It was a good day, and I did think of you, and was hoping it would be a better day for you too. And although thank goodness only lasted a couple of days when I came down with COVID.
I know, and I think what happens, when we look at anniversary, certain anniversaries, especially, there's those anniversaries that are surrounded around, losses and grief. Unfortunately for some that have experienced the grief and loss, the day is, has that tendency of the focus being primarily on the loss.
Right.
That person is not here anymore. That person is gone. That physical presence is not here. And because that becomes the focal point, by default, it impedes that ability to say, okay, you know what? This person is not here physically. Let me focus on what was. There's a expression that goes, it's better to have, and I'm going to paraphrase it just a little bit, it's better to have experienced love and lost it than to not have experienced love at all. And so when you look at it in terms of, navigating through a loss, I would have, and I would never trade the experience, I had of being Pat's mom for the 33 years that I was Patrick's mom, and his physical presence. But then I'm gonna change that up. Patrick's not physically here. I will forever be his mother.
You're always his mom,
Right.
exactly.
And I think that's what happens sometimes with individuals is the physical presence is gone, so therefore, in some people's minds, the relationship is gone. Like it says, how many children do you have? I have 3. But then when you start explaining, what do your kids do? Or, do your kids, are your kids here in Florida? As what I will hear sometimes. And I'm like, well, no, my oldest son's in the Midwest. My daughter's here. And my youngest son is not here anymore. Oh, or I go, what do you mean he's not here anymore? Well, he's gone. I think when we, again, to do the repeat, I think when we focus primarily on the loss, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, or that's not natural. It's important, yes, to understand the loss. However, navigate and get, put yourself over in, say, on this side of the house, and, acknowledge that the physical presence is gone. My life hasn't ended. My life is different than what it was when the physical body was here. However, and I have to alter the way I do things, but I shouldn't be impeded or stifled by, grief.
Right. Well, it's easier said than done, but right.
For some people, yes.
Well, and that's why, and that's why I really worked so hard this year. I mean, I've been working really hard on myself this past year, anyways, ever since I turned 60.
And when I hear people say it's easier said than done, as someone in my profession would say, okay, so let's unpack that. Granted, we're not doing therapy with Tammy here. That's not what's going on here. However, I think it's important to highlight the fact that, yes, that is so true. There are some people that it's easier said than done. It's also important to sit back and say, okay, so if you are one of those individuals who it's easier said than done, it's important to explore and process what's holding you back. What's stopping you from moving to the next phase or moving to I'm not talking necessarily the grief phase, but moving to that next level. And I think what happens for some of us, and that is that if I move forward, then basically what I'm saying or the impression that might be led or misconstrued as the person that's gone didn't really matter. It's not like, and I jokingly say, I have a heck of a time throwing out a pair of shoes that the strap broke on. I have a pair of sandals. Love these sandals. They're, beach sandals. That, the piece that goes in between the toe is separated from the sandal itself. There's no fixing this sandal. You think I would throw these sandals away? No, they're still sitting in my closet, in the little, carry bag that they came in. And I'm like, throw these away?
We actually do have someone in the community that might be able to fix those.
Well, If they can fix these, I mean, I'd be like, my kudos to them. Yeah, but the way that, but I mean, seriously, the way the shoes are
Not
constructed, it's
yet.
like there's no fixing. I tell myself, there's no fixing them. So the question becomes,
Oh yeah. Well, and that's just it. I mean, you have to be. It's hard work.
it
I
is
mean,
hard
it's
work.
hard to go through all this. It's hard to acknowledge what you're feeling. It's hard to acknowledge where you want to be. We have our own guilt and grief that we put on ourselves, and society still does it to us. Um, and it's not easy. It is so hard. I mean, and we know because we've done it, we're doing it, we continue to do it. And that too is, what we want to show other people is that, I mean, we too have gone through and still go through extreme grief, for our losses. But, we can work through it. It's not that you're working through it to get to an end, because that's not anything that ever happens. There's no such thing. But working through it and with it to integrate it into your lives, to have a continue to begin to have a happier life, to begin to enjoy life again, to live a life that our loved ones really want us to live, as difficult as it may seem. And we're not leaving them behind. I mean, anything like, Bonni and I have talked openly about it. I still believe, Bobby's here. So it's just, he's just in a different form. I can still carry him with me through my trials and tribulations and ups and downs and, everything else. Because believe you me, I do talk to him, and sometimes it's not so nice, depending on the situation.
So, Tammy, little disclaimer here. I have to tell you, I'm chuckling, but I'm not chuckling at what you're saying. Um, John is in the studio.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Oh, of course, a day I'm not in the studio, he shows up.
He's here, and you guys can't see the set and whatnot, but it's like you see me. Over here, there's a walkway, kind of pathway to go from where Rob sits, to the back of the studio, and John's was making faces like, go away, just because you own this. Yeah, it's because I know you're the boss, but stop. And he's like peeking around like, who is that? I don't know if he realized that or maybe he did know that you were zooming in today. So
Yeah,
I had to throw this disclaimer.
I told him.
Why is she laughing at what Tammy's saying? And I was like, no, it's not that. It's John is cutting up.
Our goofy producer.
Yeah, John is cutting up. You got to know John. We really love him. Again, we can't thank him enough for this. But yeah, John's cutting up just a little bit. But anyway, back. I also think too that sometimes, this is something else that we've highlighted as well. Is, when you are navigating through, the grief and loss. I think it's important to ask yourself, as you're dealing with certain aspects of it and the manner in which you deal with those certain aspects, are you dealing with it in a manner that is beneficial to you, or are you dealing with it in an aspect or manner that is beneficial to the people around you? And I've shared this before, bring it up again to highlight, what I'm talking about. I did a complete remodel of Patrick's bedroom. And it was a project that we started before he left. And I have some, before and after pictures. So this is what Patrick's bedroom looked like when he was here. And I could still picture it today. There's, I'm going to look at you and say there's 5 walls in Patrick's room. It's like, how do you get 5 walls? All right, so there's, 4 straight walls, but then there's one mini wall that's like a catty corner kind of wall. And On each one of these walls, there was a TV mounted. All right, so Patrick had 5 TVs in his bedroom. Why 5 TVs, you wonder? Patrick was a
Gamer.
gamer. Yes. And so each TV was connected to a different game system. And then he had one, I'm going to call it, TV that was, if I'm going to watch TV, that was for. He also had, hanging from the ceiling, his ball caps. And so when I look at, for me, the end product was, it's still his room. A lot of his decor that he had went back up in the room. Some, because of the new furniture that went into the room, was relocated to other other parts of my house. Like his Bruce Lee picture came out of his room. It's now hanging in the living room because of the saying that's on it. His Muhammad Ali poster is now in Devin's room. But I remember my daughter, coming over one day, and she hadn't spoken about this in, it's just never really said anything until it did come up as in conversation. And, it doesn't look like his room anymore. What are you talking about? Well, his ball caps aren't hanging up. How come you didn't hang his ball caps back up? Or, this wasn't up, and how come? And I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, so you're upset because his ball caps aren't up. And I thought about that, something as simplistic as ball caps. And I'm like, okay, I understand what you're saying. His ball caps are now, in a box to be protected so nothing happens to them. So where I wanted his stuff protected, for her, it was, you've erased him from his room because you took the ball caps down. What did she say to me? Well, it's your house. You can do what you want. However, this is how I feel. Now, I could have looked at her and said, you're right, it is my house. I can do what I want to. But I asked her, would you be comfortable if I hung the ball caps back up? It's your house. You can do what you want to. That's not the question that I asked. Would it be comforting to you to put the ball caps back up in his room? Now, one might say, Bonnie, are you being snarkly to your daughter? No, not. Okay. It is my recognition that she needed something, albeit in my house, but she needed something to give her comfort in my home. Well, because that's where her brother lived. And so if coming to visit Mom was difficult, well, A, because her brother's not there, her brother's on a pot shelf and not in his room, if a source of comfort for her is, Bonnie, hang the ball caps back up. I'm going to hang the ball caps back up. Like, it's not that serious. But sometimes what happens is, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for someone else? Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it for someone else's comfort? And sometimes it is, you know what? I'm going to do this because if it makes you happy, I'll do this. But it's at the detriment of my own healing. Versus, I'm going to do this because it also helps your healing. But I'm doing it because I'm okay with it. Or I'm doing it because I recognize that in the case of, when I look at my 2 surviving children, we're both in that healing experience together.
Right. Yeah, it's the things that we navigate these days. And I mean, I don't even, my in-laws, my sister-in-laws and my brother-in-law, they don't even come over to the house anymore. And, and I understand, in a way, I guess. I can't say totally. I'm totally honest, but understand why. and and how difficult it is for them. It's not as comforting as this place is for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and I get that. Like I said, we all travel this road a bit differently, but we travel it also to help people. So we have our fundraiser coming up, and this has been a quite interesting time to be working on the fundraiser and being locked up at home. It was all week. I haven't been able to go out and visit people, but it's amazing with technology. Like I can still be kind of sick and be on the show this week. Um, I moved my office, which was my laptop and 2 phones, into my bed for a couple days. So my office was my bedroom, and was able to actually get a lot more done, preparing for the event than I thought I would be able to. And of course, all our volunteers out there still collecting baskets. The deadline is already over as far as sponsorship goes. If you want to be in the program, you can still sponsor. We just can't get you in the program, but we can get you on the show afterwards, and we can get you on our social media. So if you're still interested in that, please contact me. And we have different levels of sponsorship. And this year has just been totally awesome. We have, of course, our Hope sponsors, which is our presenting sponsors. And don't forget, the event is next Thursday, September 8th, from 6 to 10 at the Hilton Garden Inn. And the Hilton Garden Inn is so awesome, and they are so accommodating. The chef is awesome. We're going to have super great hors d'oeuvres. But yeah, there's our Hope presenting sponsors, of course, Area 52 Media Group, our producer, 9 Round. Kim's been on the show. There's 4 9 Rounds around Tampa Bay that they own. New on board this year, we were so happy, the Rotary Club of Palm Harbor, and of course the Hilton Garden Inn. Those are our top sponsors. And we're so appreciative. The next level is our Dolly sponsors. And again, a new sponsor this year is No Naked Walls. They're an art and frame shop, which you might think, oh, they're in competition with Tammy. But you know what? This is actually the first time in years. I've never operated that way. There's enough work for everybody. And I tell you what, the new owners of No Naked Walls are awesome. The manager, Debbie, is really great. We actually send work back and forth, something that she can't do, I can do, things that I don't want to do. Or like this week, I was sick. I couldn't accommodate a client just, with broken glass, needed replaced with plexiglass. So I sent it over to her. So we work really great together, and they're very supportive. And of course, our dessert sponsor, Leanne's Cookies, she was our dessert sponsor at our last live event. And if you haven't had her cookies, oh man, you have to. And she is really great for corporate gifts, customer gifts. She packages up her cookies really super cool. She's got all these different ways that she can design the packages and ship them all over the country. I've used them as thank yous for my clients in the past, and they just love them. And then, of course, new also this year is our photo booth with C Creative Photo Booths. These people are a lot of fun, and the technology with these photo booths and how you get your pictures or do your pictures or whatever is really, really super cool. And so we got, a special corner set up for them. And that's going to, be a whole lot of fun. Then we got our Da Vinci sponsors, Deborah Diaz, she's sponsored in the past, State Farm, Greg Schindler's office, South State Bank is a new sponsor this year. And of course, Precision Surveying and Mapping Incorporated, they've been supportive from the very beginning. Of course, that's who Bobby worked for, who he was working for when he left us. They've he worked until the day he died, and he, even with his MS, he wanted to work out in the field. He was an outdoorsy land surveyor, and then again, our Picasso sponsors, we got a bunch of new ones this year. Pasco Camera Exchange has sponsored in the past. Dr. Vasilius Ninos, he is a neurological chiropractor, and he is awesome. Of course, Slice of Life is an awesome community supporter all across the board in our community all year long, with everybody. They're just great. And of course, Duran, Beam, and Farrell, they are past supporters also. Suncoast Win, women's networking group, that's been around for, I think they just had their 37th birthday. And then, of course, Rooters Networking Club, Jim Murdoch, he's a hoot. Him and his wife, Sherry, have been extremely supportive. So we've got, I'm just kind of like blown away this year with what is happening and the support that we're getting for this event. It's really starting to blow up. And I don't know if I told you that it was totally confirmed. Excuse me, but it is. Our keynote speaker is our very own Rod Cunningham.
Nice.
So Rod has been a previous guest on our show. He's a retired Air Force veteran. Tell us a little bit about Rod, Bonnie.
Oh, where do I start?
I know. That's why I deferred it to you.
So, all right. So, as Tammy said, Rod is a 29-year retired Air Force. I chuckle, Air Force. Air Force master. I think it was a master sergeant. But he also is a life coach. He's a motivational speaker, and he authored 2 books, Climb and Climb 2. And the books are Climb and Climb 2, which are available for purchase. Rod brings, how I initially met Rod is he was under contract with DEA. And they'd come in and done some training here, hence, I'm representing today. My DEA shirt on today. But when Rod came in, he was, I may get his job, the particular job title incorrect, so forgive me. But he was like a community liaison. And part of what he did was to bring, it was called DEA 360. But it was to bring training about the issues of not only opioids but the drug problem here around the country. From that, he now is the co-host of a Thursday teleconference called Lifeline Faith and Wellness meeting. But Rod speaks on topics of wellness and processing through grief and loss and whatnot. And dynamic speaker. I've sat in on a couple of his what's the word I'm looking for? Seminars that I've been in before. I've sat in on a breakout session, that he was leading, and I was very fascinated about the information that he brings forth. And so I also know that Rod is, married, to his wife. He called his beautiful wife. So I could pull up my phone and look it up. How long has he and his wife been married? But he's married. He's a father. He's a grandfather. and listening to him talk about his grandchildren, as those of us who are grandparents do. He is very, he dotes on his grandchildren. But again, a very, you know, uh, treasured colleague of ours, but I would say even more so, a dear friend.
Yeah, he's yeah. You mentioned the Lifeline uh, podcast that he does. He also hosts a weekly veterans podcast that focus on faith, mental health, and VA compensation and pension. I don't know. It doesn't say how many years. They have 3 children and 10 grandchildren.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't say how long he and his wife have been married, but I did know. I was like, I wanted to make sure. I thought he told me because he and I did like this thing. He was like, I have 10 grandchildren. I was like, I got you by double and then some. But then I'm a little older than Rod is too, and my kids started earlier than his, so there is that. And it's Air Force; they can't keep up with the Army.
Oh, geez, you guys. Yeah, well, we're really super happy that he's joining us for our event. It's gonna be a really good event. I mean, we have some awesome. So I was trying to figure out what I was gonna. The foundation office is a mess because there's a bunch of stuff, getting ready for this event. So I was like, how can I got to set something up so it looks like halfway decent in here. So I'm actually sitting at the counter in my kitchen, but this wall behind me, this painting is one of the paintings. It's a reproduction, of Van Gogh's Starry Night. This is a 36 by 48 painting that'll be available at the event. And of course, we'd shown before. Let's see if I can show some of this. The painting in the back here that my friend from high school did. Gift baskets, a designer purse, bottle of Jim Beam. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. We're going to put together a nice basket for that. I've got this really cool. She's a client of mine, but she's also an artist too, and she uses. That I can never pronounce it. Swarovski crystal, the crystal thing, and she does like genie bottles, from like I Dream of Genie. They are really cool, but it was so wrapped up that I was afraid to unwrap it until the event. But it's really cool, and we've got a bunch of art sculptures that'll be available. We've got the lottery board, a bunch of gift baskets, and this was another one. This is like since last Friday, it's like all these little pieces seem to like magically fall into place. And we had spoken before. We were looking for music for the background music at the event. And I had mentioned that I kind of wanted like a string quartet or something, because that's what we had at our anniversary. When we got married down by the lake, we had a string quartet playing. Well, Mitchell High School Orchestra has volunteered a string quartet for this event.
Oh, nice.
We are so excited. And it's really weird how, I totally believe the universe works in mysterious ways, and oftentimes we don't like it. But like the day that I got the phone call for Palm Harbor Rotary that wanted to sponsor our event, the president of the Rotary, received an email with our information, and it happened to be on the first anniversary of the death of her best friend's 16-year-old son. And she was like, I just have to do it. And talking or emailing back and forth with the orchestra director, is a really cool guy. I can't wait to meet him the night of the event. he received information about our event a week after he lost a friend to suicide. And he was like, we have to be a part of this. And I am just so grateful that we're going to be able to get these high school kids involved, and they can be, they can be a part of it. It's a huge step for us in getting the public aware. And you're going to be one of our speakers too.
Yeah, I was voluntold. No, I am. We love what we do. And I remember when you said, "Oh, by the way," I wasn't, and it is an honor, to be, a part of, this is going to be my first Art for Hope, event that I am, involved in. So I'm really looking forward, really looking forward to it. So yes, I was voluntold. And
it's gonna be all good.
no, it is. No, and I was, there are some people where it's like I was voluntold for this, and there's that, and then there are some of us that are voluntold we're going to do something, and it's like, oh, I didn't expect it, but it's a welcome expectation. But I want to take a moment, Tammy, if I could, to, as we're talking about, loss and suicide and whatnot, and, things that happen, and it's also kind of a nice segue of what we planned, though it doesn't always happen, to discuss our topic of discussion next week. Is, we do what we do to bring, a little bit of peace and comfort to people who have been lost. Rob, do we have Carson's picture?
He should have. I sent it.
That's at one.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I spoke about this young man a little bit last week. This is Carson Moppin, or as his friends called him, Big Mop. Carson is the 16-year-old son of a dear friend of mine, Tammy, back in the Midwest. Her mom, Linda, is one of my oldest and dearest friends. But it's another one of those sucky things about August, is the 23rd. Of course we know what that day is. But Carson left us on the 24th. His mom found him in his bedroom. He had taken a Percocet, from what I understand. But anyway, it appears that his loss was due to fentanyl. And I'm grieving, not only the loss of, this young man, remarkable young man. I knew him when he was a baby bump in his mother's belly. Like I knew, Carson before Carson was Carson. Like I knew his mom before she was pregnant with him. Like I said, this is a, decades, a couple decades friendship. But anyway, that being said, August 31st, that just passed, was International Overdose Awareness Day. And, I think it's, as we look at, that particular day and the fact that, unfortunately, we have those days that highlights a topic, but overdoses happen every single day. And, I found it tragic that, here again, we have another individual, a teenager, a young guy, who, will not get to experience graduating from high school, will not be able to experience, finding, that person, that he wants to share the rest of his life with. I spent, the last few days, watching, my social media and posts of him playing with, and I'm not sure who the baby, whose baby it was, but he's playing with this baby, and Tammy captioning, looking at this and saying, he would have made a fantastic father. But then also, understanding and feeling her pain in that I want to find, or either I want to find, or maybe it's hopefully I don't find the person who gave that Percocet to my son. You know, this this epidemic, this issue of whether it is a death by an overdose or a death by suicide, it is an epidemic that continues to grip us as a society. Every day. You never know when you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to look at your social media feed, you're going to hear on the news that we've lost another individual to an overdose or to a suicide. And so I think, with things like, we have Art for Hope, coming up. The very next day, and this is going to be a busy weekend for us. The very next day, we have the Recovery Walk, that is sponsored by, ASAP and Alliance for Healthy Communities. Our Stronger Together Recovery Walk, which is Friday, September 9th, from 5 to 8, at Sims Park here in Newport Richey. Another mechanism to promote, the fact that, for the Recovery Walk, we do and will recover. And so while we're celebrating, those individuals who are in the fight and were able to, slay the dragon, beat off the demons, we also have Art for Hope, that is, recognizing and memorializing, and remembering people that, we lost, to suicide. And then what I feel is like a combo of the two in November. I want to say it's November 17th. Rob, we should have that asset. We have the Nope Candlelight Vigil coming up, where, I look at, these are people that, we lost to addiction as well. But I think what I feel with Nope, it is either accidental overdose, or was that overdose intentional because it was a suicide? So I think it's important that, we sit back and remember, and keep these, individuals who have lost, people, in our thoughts and prayers. There's, the asset for the Candlelight Vigil. I mean, we are thrilled to, that these people are coming out of the woodwork to help us, bring our message and support the different events that we have going on. For the Candlelight Vigil, it's, Pasco Hernando State College, and they're putting forth, a good deal of money to bring a speaker in for us.
Well, and in between all that, in October 1st, is Pasco County's Out of the Darkness Walk.
Yes.
And I think the following week, and it's a week-long thing in which we'll get the girls back on here. They're going to love it. From Parks and Rec, Kim and Deanna. Parks and Rec this year, their Stomp Out Suicide is a week-long kind of event. They're adding a bowling tournament, which is going to be so much fun. And as we get closer, get past our things this coming week and start working to the next ones that are coming up, there's going to be a lot more going on and a lot more support. And so that we can bring you, all this information and, support the community, support people in the community, support our organizations. But foremost, remember to put these lifeline numbers in your phone. The 988 number is the new 3-digit number, and it is a call or text number. So it's basically the same services. It's just an easier number to remember. But at any rate, have these numbers in your phone. You just never know when they're going to be needed, and you don't have to think twice about it. It's there.
Oh, exactly. I think, yeah, it is. It continues to be vitally important to, speak up and, support, individuals who, might be, suffering themselves because of the loss, but also to remember that there are also support groups and organizations out to help you, whether it is you are that person who is contemplating, suicide, or you are that person that's struggling with addiction, as well as being that individual who, is the person who's left behind, because of a loss.
What's our quote? Positive
What's
quote.
our quote? I admire people who choose to shine even after all of the storms that they have been through. And I think, I picked this quote because I think it speaks to what we do. No matter what the storm, we continue to persevere and go through. And with that, as we always say, there's always
There's
hope.
always hope, and you can make it through the storm. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.